What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode right here on Edmonton Sports Talk. This is the Hockey Edmonton Show. I'm YouTube Trev. That's Jeremy Halishchuk. How are you doing this fine Saturday morning? It's been a week since I've seen you, Jeremy. It's been a good week. We had some good conversation the last show that we had with Brock McGillis. What an awesome episode that was, and thank you for tuning in for that one. We got another really good one today. We'll be joined by Barry Medori, manager of Coach Mentorship, and kind of just talking about preparing players for early adulthood, but whether it's on or off the ice. And Barry is the perfect guy to have on to help us discuss this.
Love that intro. Yeah, I mean, you hit it right on the head there. It was a good week, definitely. Really can't complain. And yeah, following up from a great episode, we have another great guest here. And again, like I said, before anybody that is anybody in the coaching realm here in Alberta knows the name Barry Medori, and not even in Alberta, across the country. So it's definitely a very good day here. We're going to be excited to have him join us in a few minutes. But I think you just nailed it again on the head there in terms of we've spent a lot of our episodes here talking about what coaches can do to develop their athletes, how parents can be supportive in the development of the athletes. But there is one more equation into that, and that's the athlete itself. How can the athletes take ownership of their development and be a great teammate? One of the things I used to tell to some of my kids as they continued their journey is who's the best coach that you're going to have, and they'll name their names, and I was never one of them, so it is, but that's okay because I was never the best. I asked that question, and the answer that I give them is it's going to be you, because you're the one who knows internally what you're giving and what you're investing into your development. And so again, it's really important to be that self-aware athlete. And like I said, Barry definitely can give some definite information, thoughts on how you can reach that next level. And again, we talk about as you get through your hockey career, quite honestly, the skills become less of a differentiating factor. It's those intangibles that all of a sudden separate the players, because you are bringing like skilled players closer and closer together as you're going up. So again, when you're thinking at the grassroots level, yes, there's a very wide array of players, a lot of players. But as you grow and, you aspire to be at U13 AAA, that pyramid shrinks more and more. You're getting more competition for some limited spots. Then you continue up to U15 AAA and likewise U18 AAA. If you want to play junior, those opportunities are getting smaller and smaller as you go up. So again, what are those differentiating factors? Because at the end of the day, all of those players are skilled players. You can look at back in the day, players my age will remember guys like Dean McCammon for the Oilers. He was a leading scorer in juniors. In the NHL, he's second, third line type of player, right? So again, everybody is skilled as you get up to those higher levels. Again, what's going to make you different is being a good teammate, being self-aware, and really investing in yourself as a athlete. And again, like I said, our guest today, Barry Medori, he has mentored so many coaches through our Team Alberta programs. Again, guy that's coached at every level, so he has the experiences like nobody else that many of us know. And again, he's been recognized nationally by Hockey Canada, 2020 Gordon Jukes Award recipient. So that means he's recognized for his outstanding contribution to the development of amateur hockey in Canada. So again, like I said, he's going to be very humble and such, but again, just a great person. Most importantly, I think that everybody, even just working with him as a staff member, you look up to him and you listen, because he's got such great words of wisdom and he treats everybody with just the utmost respect. And I think that's what makes him Barry.
That's awesome. And you kind of need a guy like that for this job, right? Like if I'm not understanding, then we'll get into it, but he mentors the mentors, right? He oversees, quite a bit, right? And so you want a guy that leads by example. And by all accounts, from all I've heard, that sounds like the kind of guy that Barry is. And we talked about it last week's episode, street cred. Brock, he had a lot of street cred. Sounds like Barry's got a lot of street cred, right? He's been there, he's done that. He knows what to do. He knows how to handle all sorts of situations. And I feel like developing as an athlete, which is, the main focal point of today's show, it's like half of it is off the ice, right? Like it's yes, you want to be a good player and all that, but at the end of the day, you got to be a good person. And that is talked about for a lot of players, whether it's the superstars in the league. You hear it. Connor McDavid, he's an unbelievable player on the ice, but he's just as good of a person off the ice. Whenever they talk that's always followed. That's always followed. Yeah, he's a great player, but he's a great person. And so it's awesome that, they're taking initiative. People are taking initiative and not only making really good hockey players, but just making them good people, because hockey is one thing, but at the end of the day, you go hockey, you come home, whether it's professional, whether you make it professional, whether you don't, you can learn a lot from hockey, but being a good person, it just goes such a long way. And that's kind of a conversation that we're going to have with Barry, as I'm pretty sure we've got him in the waiting room here. Are we set to bring in Barry in?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, let's give it a go here. Joining us now, Barry Medori, manager of Coach Mentorship. Barry, how are you doing today? And first off, I just want to make sure if you can hear me. Can you hear us? Okay. We got the thumbs up. Okay, feel free. This is awesome. So yes, Barry Medori joining us right now, manager of Coach Mentorship. How are you doing today, Barry?
I felt really young until I listened to you guys talk about me and the fact that I'm a little bit older than I think I am some days. But overall, I'm doing very well. Thanks.
Yes. No, thank you for taking the time out of your day to join the show. It's a really cool conversation that we're going to have. So we really appreciate you for taking the time out of your day. I imagine you're a very busy guy. And right out of the gate, Barry, maybe just tell the audience, tell the folks listening at home who you are, introduce yourself. I think we gave a little bit of introduction there, but for the stuff we didn't mention, who you are, how did you get into this position, and how long have you been doing it as well?
Kind of a loaded question.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, that's okay. It's good. When I'm asked that, it does make me feel a little bit more my age. I was born after dinosaurs left the earth and dirt was formed, so I'm not quite that old. But I started, I became a phys ed teacher, was my early career path, and coached a lot of teams in school, male and female, everything from basketball, volleyball, track, badminton, wrestling, gymnastics, all of those things. And it kind of piqued my interest. That's even why I got into it, because I like working with kids. And when I ended up having my own, I played hockey, senior hockey, obviously in Spruce or Stony Plain and St. Albert. So when my son was old enough to scuff around the ice, I volunteered in Onaway. That's where we lived, the hub of the highway, to do a little coaching there. And it sort of started from there. Coached in Onaway for a whole bunch of years, minor hockey. And I put my name in one year with Hockey Alberta. I'd heard about this thing called Alberta Cup. And so I put my name in, and I ended up getting the head coaching position. I'd never done it before. I was coaching Bantamay hockey, and the kids that tried out in the Alberta Cup were AAA players. So it was one of those shit your pants moments for me. But the teaching side helped me out. I was prepared and organized. The only thing I wasn't prepared for was the level of play and the speed and all of that. But I had two great assistant coaches that helped me out. So I made it through that, and I gained a passion for short-term competition from that. So it kind of led me, as I went, to taking more coursework, and in today's world would be like Coach 1 and 2, and development 1 and HP 1 and that. And I ended up actually by the end of it all getting my HP 4. And it'll probably come in the story as I go. But anyway, so I did all of that, kept doing the short-term competition, got fortunate in that I head coached Team Pacific back in 2002 with some really great players that were on it. 2003 with Canada Winter Games with Alberta, and we ended up winning a gold medal that year. With Pacific, we lost to the Americans in overtime the year before, but it sort of started me on that pathway with high performance. So I applied to end up doing World Juniors and under 18 at that time, and was told unless you're a Western Hockey League coach, your chances are slim to none. And so at that time, I just decided I wasn't going to quit my teaching job and go do something that didn't pay me very much. And during that time, we'd started Drayton Valley, the Thunder then, so we were an expansion team. So I spent 3 years there last year as a head coach. Learned a lot, went over to Nate with the Ukes for 3 years, did a whole bunch of coaching there. And so I decided just in that time to get into the girls' side. So I ended up doing under 22 for, I think, 3 years with Hockey Canada. I did Team Alberta a couple of times. And then I ended up working with our national women's team at one point as well. So it gave me lots of experience both in the male and female program. And at that time, I ended up starting a hockey program in Spruce Grove, and it ended up branching out into Wabamun and also Onaway. So at one point, we had probably 250 kids in the program. New administration came in after about 12 years, and they decided that they were going to get rid of a few of the specialized programs. Mine was one of them. So I ended up losing the hockey program. But just around that time, Hockey Alberta came nosing around Tim Lear and asked if I would like to apply for a job as a mentor for coaches in Alberta. And I didn't really understand too much about the position. There wasn't a lot out at the time, but the government was giving grants to different sports organizations for any of the organizations that wanted to hire somebody. So it was sort of a matching grant. Hockey Alberta pays $1, the government paid $1. And that was about all it was back in the day. Anyways, I decided to get out of the teaching realm. So I retired from teaching and started, I think it was 2008 that I started with Hockey Alberta. So it's kind of grown from there. So long and short of it all.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a good investment from Hockey Alberta's side. Again, like I said, you look at the program itself, and again, the leadership that you brought, not only from the coaches and everybody who stepped through that program, no matter if it was a player, if it was a trainer, if it was any type of bench staff, mentors, coaches, assistant coaches, to staff. Again, very, very good investment, and the knowledge that you've been able to share throughout your time there has definitely moved the game forward. So, I mean, yeah, at the start, I mean, obviously a coach that has had a lot of experience. And I know when we were prepping for this, we kind of hit off a few of those ideas of what we wanted to chat about today. And so I think, as somebody who's got a lot of experience, both winning and losing, I think, let's start off with that idea that, sometimes you win and sometimes you learn. So let's hit that off, and some of those lessons that you can bestow on all of our listeners about the game is more than just winning.
Yeah, I think to start with, the biggest piece of advice I would give any player or any coach is that when you go into a sport to become part of it, whether it's a player or a coach or whatever, you have to understand that sports requires somebody's going to end up winning and somebody's not going to win. And because of that, you're not always going to be successful. And I think the metrics of it from the coaching perspective, if you're in it just to win and to win championships and everything else, most of us as coaches would be very disappointed at the end of the day or the end of the year, because we're not going to win every game. We're not going to win every event. So one of the things, and again, I guess, my background as a teacher and a phys ed teacher taught me early on that we want to teach kids in sports life skills and the mental side of the game as much or more than we do the technical side. And again, from a player's perspective, they want to have a coach that is showing care for them first and foremost. I think the knowledge-based side of it, they will start to appreciate once they recognize and understand the coach is there for them and is trying to help them to end up getting better. So, that the term that I used there, I ended up getting it from a book years ago. I bought it for my grandsons. They're both redheads. Well, two of them are from my daughter's side. And because of that, I think we all know that redheads can sometimes have that little bit of a personality. And when they started playing early on, when they weren't winning, whether it was a card game or playing a game of pool or whatever it happened to be, they weren't happy about it. So I found this book by John Maxwell and read it to them when they were young. And I've read it more than once to them. And I think it's finally starting to catch on. But the whole purpose of it is, sometimes you are going to win. But even when you win, are you satisfied with the win? Like, how did you play as a person? How did you play, in relation to your teammates? Was the other team just as good as you or better that you had to work harder to beat them? Or obviously not beat them. And there's a lot of lessons to be learned, both from the winning side and the losing. When we win, we typically push everything under the carpet and we forget about all the mistakes we make. Hey, we won the game, so all's good in the world. When we lose, everything's down and it's muddy and whatever else. And experience tells me that players don't handle it so well, and a lot of coaches don't. Sorry. Better turn that off.
You're all
so
good.
At the end of the day, that's a $5 fine, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Son of a gun. But from a player's perspective, being taught by a coach that what did you learn from this game? What didn't we do well? What did the other team do better than us? What are we going to do to improve for the next game or the next practice? What else do we need to do? Do we need to compete harder? Do we need to work a little bit harder? Do we need to be more focused when we come into the game? Were we afraid of the opponent? Like, were they way better than us? So we already went in there thinking that we were going to lose, or did we go in overconfident thinking, this team isn't very good? I can tell you that this year I'm coaching a U15 AA team out of Spruce Grove, the PAC organization. And it's been a very interesting year. And this topic here, sometimes you win and sometimes you learn. There's been a lot of learning for us. We've done well in the games. Lots of times we're a little bit overmatched. We're not a big community, and we have 2 AA teams and a AAA team. So we don't get the numbers that some of the other organizations do. And so trying to work with the players to show them they can compete at the level that they're at, and we can work hard in practice to improve, and we can talk about all those things after games and work on them in practice. And you hope down the road that the life skill lessons are going to pay off, because someday they're going to be a fireman or a doctor or a policeman or a teacher, or they're going to drive a truck, or they're going to do whatever. And every one of those jobs requires teamwork. And because of that, it's not just one person that's involved in the process and in the final decision or the result. It's everybody. And so how do we work with kids, and how do the kids believe that they need to be better teammates, especially when things aren't going well, and to try and stay positive throughout it? And that's where the whole side of the mental performance piece comes in. When you talk about this, the sometimes you learn, is that good coaches are going to understand that and really work with the players more on that than anything else. A coach can go in after a game and be upset with the way that they played. They lost it in the third period, which we've done quite a few times this year, and be mad and kick garbage cans or swear and all of that. And all it does is get everything off of your chest, but you put it back on the players and they leave feeling even worse. So from a player standpoint, what they want to hear is good things about what they did. They want to reflect on what they need to work on. and then just get prepared for the next time out. So the player themselves needs to really recognize and ask themselves, why are they playing the game? Like Simon Sinek, the why conversation that he's had is world renowned. And it's so important for players to recognize it, for parents to recognize it, and coaches. Why are kids playing the game? Our U15 team this year, we had Derek Martin was a head coach, and he's done, he thinks 11 years with Hockey Alberta, and he's really grown as a coach and a person. But the thing that I loved about this year's team and why we ended up doing so well from beginning to end of the tournament, we didn't do well in the round robin. We ended up winning the whole thing, is that his whole thing was earn joy. And it was so important because joy is loving to be at the rink, loving to be in the gym, loving to do things. And the earn joy, and I've used it now with my Spruce Grove team, how important it is. And that's a question that I ask them a lot of the time. Are we earning joy today, fellas? Are we doing what it takes to be having fun? And if not, what do we need to do to end up improving ourselves, our mental look at it, so that we are going to learn and we might win the game at the end of the day. But that earning joy is, to me, is critical to success, and trying to bring it on to the parents as well so that they recognize it and aren't hard on the players, and obviously aren't hard on me. I'm not a young coach anymore, and I got a thick skin, but it's still, you don't want to see those sorts of things coming out. So I'm not really sure. I probably rambled a bit with that on the sometimes you win, sometimes you learn, but really end of the day, it's you're not going to win all the time. What are you taking away from it? And how are you going to end up bettering yourself as a player?
Awesome. Barry Medori, manager of Coach Mentorship, joining us right now here on the Hockey Edmonton Show. I'm YouTube Trev. This is Jeremy Halischuk. And Barry, just want to go to the beginning a little bit. You talked about your resume, and so just to be clear, you've been in this position since 2008, if I'm not mistaken, is what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So just maybe could you just enlighten and tell the audience of what your current role is, what you do, what you overlook, just because I'm curious as well. Sure.
My job when it started was 3 lines long, and it's a little bit more now. And a lot of it's due to my indulgence in wanting to keep learning and growing. So at the present time, I mentor all of the male program, grassroots and the high performance side. So Team Alberta, I work with their staff in the planning, organizing, preparation for, and then at the event. And what that entails basically is putting together a plan for them and then kind of leading them through the process from beginning to end, so that when they get to the event, they're prepared. So everything from the first meeting, working a SWOT with the staff, and SWOT means strengths, weaknesses, threats, and opportunities, and talking about it so that we know where we're coming from, and doing the same thing with the players. When they start to come in and we start to evaluate them, what kind of a team do we want, the identity in that of it. And also with the team, I do the mental performance part. So it's a lot of fun. I get a lot out of it. I learn a lot. I work with great coaches, outstanding kids, and the staff, Mike Krejci and Bobby Fox, are very helpful with the coaches as well, with their part of it, the organization piece of it, and the player scouting and all of that. So together we form a really formidable team. I used to do the female program as well with Team Alberta, but a couple of years ago, my job changed a little bit. So with the male side, I then do also Alberta Cup, which is a U15 level, second year. So it's their draft year. And then U13s, we have a Prospect Cup. And Alberta Cup has 6 teams. Prospects Cup has 8 teams. The province is divided into zones. Each zone will select 2 teams from a selection camp. And those teams, whether it's a 6 for Cup or 8 for Prospects, go to a competition in April or early May to determine winners. It also is the last phase for the scouts with the Western League to look at the kids from Alberta in order to make draft selections. So that's pretty cool. And what I do with them, again, I put together a process from beginning to end. I also bring in a mentor for every team. So in total, there's 14 mentors. They do what I do with the Team Alberta side. So they work with that team from beginning to end, trying to teach them all of the things that they need to do and getting them to stay on task throughout the process. So we're almost done with the coach applications and putting them all onto teams, and then assigning mentors to them. So within the next 3 weeks to month, the mentors will be getting a hold of their staff and starting that whole process, getting to know who they are, then looking at how to prepare for the selection camp, going to the selection camp and going through a draft. And that's an incredible journey in itself. Just to do that, you go there not knowing any kids. There's 200 plus kids at a camp, and you're expected to pick the top 40 kids, 20 for each team. So 6D, 12 forwards, 2 goalies that will end up going to the competition, getting to know the players during that weekend, not know them personally, but trying to figure out what skill set they have to match what you think you want your team ID to be. And then going from there. So you select your team, and then you've got about 5 weeks that you can meet with them online. And now it's beautiful because we have Zoom and Teams and whatever else that the coaches can meet with the players and see them face to face. So my responsibility with both of those groups, the 14 mentors and all the coaches, is to ensure they're having a successful journey from beginning to end. So I put together all of the package for them of all of the critical path elements and all of the materials that go in it, so that for them, all they need to do is click a button and go to it, and it tells them what to do. It gives them reference materials and things of that nature. So over the course of all the years, it's been built up, and I'm now trying to weed and feed it a little bit. I think I'm giving sometimes too much. I think it's probably a dilemma of getting old is the more you know, the more you sometimes want to share, and it's like that's too much. So trying to abbreviate it. So that's the high performance Team Alberta side of my job. I also am involved with the development side. Actually, Team Alberta side, I do the Arctic Winter Games. I help Blake Cosgrove with those. So that part is out of my realm, because in order to be part of it, I need to live north of the 49th parallel, which means Grand Prairie or bust north. So I go and help the coaching staffs, both the male and female programs. Again, the planning side of it, not nearly as involved as the Team Alberta U16 program, but still quite a bit. And then I remain to help them, like during the event and all of that. If they need help, they'll give me a call or send me a text, and I'll help them through that, the troubleshooting stuff. On the development side, I work with Steve Pattison and Blake Cosgrove. So they do all the clinics in Alberta for all of the coaches. So in order to coach in Alberta, you need to be certified. So they take care of all of that. I help develop some of the curriculum. So each year we review it. We go through it. This year we just did a segment. We used Art and my team. I went to Red Deer for a session on a Sunday morning, spent 2.5 hours on the ice and videoed a whole bunch of skill stuff relating to checking, so that they can now put it into a package that will go out to all the coaches that are taking these programs. So pretty cool doing that sort of stuff. Also involved with our HP1 program in the summer, and that's a high performance one. So that's for, coaches in the double AAA level that are coaching at that level. And so it's a little bit of a higher end coach program. It's a week long. There's a whole bunch of different presentations that happen. There's a whole bunch of mentoring that goes on. Each coach, there's 36 coaches that attend. There's 4 groups of 9. Each group has a group leader or a mentor. So again, I bring those people in and I mentor them. They go through the process. Every staff has to plan 3 practices, and then they go behind the bench for a game. So they all get opportunity hands-on to work and do the stuff that we're trying to teach them during that week. When they're finished that week, they have a take-home exam. It's pretty long and it's extensive, but it teaches them what they don't know and also what they know, which is critically important from a coach development side of it. We bring in their players, and each year we've changed the age level just to try and find where a good grouping is for the kids to learn and develop, and also for the coaches to get kind of that level of expertise and skill level. So Blake ends up bringing the players in. We do that section of it. And at the end, when they finish their exam, they have a field exam. And so I'm involved somewhat with that, both in recruiting field evaluators, and then I also do some of that myself, where we'll go out and observe a few practices and a couple games, give feedback, and then obviously give an observation checklist at the end of that. So that kind of goes with that part. And then there's just lots of little things that always come up in the development side over the course of the year that I try and end up helping out with too. So too many little things to mention, but just, I guess, in a nutshell, that's kind of what my job entails. 5 or 6 months of the year, I'm crazy busy, and 5 months I'm spent at a computer getting things ready for the next year, making phone calls, going out and visiting coaches, things of that nature to get ready for the following year.
Perfect. And it's one of those things that we talk about, the guidance and the mentorship that you give to your mentors as well as the coaches, and that just feeds down into our system as a whole. And again, we get those coaches. Yeah, most of them are in our club system, in our elite system, but there's a lot that do filter down to the community system as well to become leaders within their community. So again, such a great asset to have this program and the good things that it does. And so when we were talking earlier on there about the sometimes you win, sometimes you learn, you talked about being a good teammate. And so I think that's a great segue into the next question is, what is the difference between a teammate and a team player?
Well, if I'm a team player or a player on the team, what I am is I'm there to wear the coat and to say that I'm on the team. So AAA, AA, Tier 3, whatever it happens to be, I'm just happy to be there. And I'm not really bought into anything that the team is doing other than to have that coat and to be able to tell people and show people that I'm part of it. So there's a lack of, for not a better word, Jared, of buy-in from the player. To be a teammate means a whole lot of things, but really at the end of the day, it's an everyday, every time, everything opportunity for a player to be involved, and not just with one or two players on the team that are happy that you're there and your buddies and everything else, but that you're there for everybody, every one of the however many players are on the team. Normally teams have like 19 players. So it is a full-time job, and there's a lot of attributes that go with it. The very first one, and I can say even with our team this year, like I was sharing earlier, we've been in most of the games, and it seems the third period is a bugaboo, just like the Oilers lately. And I can't understand, it's probably happening in their bench too, but occasionally you will hear somebody saying, shoot the puck, make a good pass, stand up, whatever. And this is the players, not the coach. And so we as a coaching staff here, when we hear that, we nip it in the butt. And I've done a lot of talk between periods on the bench after games relating to that, because one of the first sessions that I did this year with the team was on being a good teammate. And we talked about all that stuff and the importance of staying together, hanging together no matter what. Because it's not going to be an easy year. We're not going to win every game. You're not going to score a ton of goals all the time. You're going to get scored on, all of those sorts of things. So how do we help each other? How do we support one another when things aren't going good? Because I think we know it as adults. When things are going well, everybody's happy. Everybody's friends and that sort of stuff. So I think that what goes with it in some ways is being a great listener. I know my years as an administrator in school, when parents would come in or the teacher would come in upset, you'd have to listen to them and figure out what the actual problem was. And I think as a player, you need to do the same thing. Like when one of your buddies is upset about something and talking, they need to end up figuring out what the issue is and then somehow being able to support them. And you can look at it three ways. One is you can be passive. So you can say nothing and do nothing and just let it go by the wayside. You can be aggressive and tell them, go after that guy, do this, say that, be whatever. Or probably the logical way and the best way to go is to be assertive. And what that word means is, you know, the difference between right and wrong. You know the right time to say something and the right time to do something. So being assertive is, how do you support that teammate in that time of peril? And for younger kids, it's really difficult because cognitively, their intuitive part of their brain is developed early. But the other part of the brain that deals a lot more with this stuff doesn't start to happen in boys till probably 13 or 14 years old. So even teaching systems and tactics and things like that to players when they're too young, coaches get upset with it because they don't understand why. Well, it's cognitive, it's development. They're not ready for it yet. So being a good listener to me is critical. And the other one, I think, with being a good teammate is that ability to sacrifice. And that means both on and off the ice in a lot of different ways. Taking a hit to make a play, passing instead of shooting to let somebody else score a goal, sitting a shift, going to the penalty box if somebody takes a penalty and somebody needs to end up going in. All of those sorts of things to me are what sacrifice is all about on the ice. And then off the ice, probably lots of things too, whether it's sharing a meal, whether it's taking 15 minutes after practice or before to listen to somebody, maybe going to the gym to work out with somebody because they're not into it and pumping them up as they end up going. So I think all of those things relate to being a teammate and the importance of it. So again, like I say, it's an everyday job. It's all the time, and it's with every player. You're not selective with who you like and who you don't like. And that's a really important one, I think. I know we're talking more about the players, but from a coaching standpoint, that might be the most critical piece as a coach to end up ironing out right at the start of the year when you do your mission, vision, and value stuff. And hopefully all coaches do that so that they make decisions based on values. But a value needs to end up being the mental wellness of their players. And it's critical that if the players feel good, they're going to play good. And to me, that's a big part of being a good teammate, is that mental wellness of helping one another get through the tough times and congratulating during the good times.
No, that's definitely some good food for thought in terms of understanding that difference. And yeah, like I said, or like you said, it was a good visual there. Is, are you there just for the letters or the coat, or are you there for that betterment of the team? And the earlier on that you can understand that, the easier your hockey journey does become. But more importantly, at the end of the day, that's just life. These are those life skills that you're teaching, that the game teaches. And again, like I said, we talk about how hockey makes better people. And again, this is just one of those aspects there. You talk about being a good teammate, and I think, you mentioned about, sacrificing and such. And I think that ties into the kind of the next idea there, and that's self-awareness as a player, and really being self-aware of the type of player you are based on your skill set. Because as you said, when you get to some of these short-term competitions or you're playing that AAA level, it becomes more role specific. Everybody at those has those skill sets to be good players. They are all coming from their, in the Team Alberta program, their own club program where they have played likely AAA, some AA, but a lot of them are AAA players. And again, there can only be so many scorers on the team. There are some other role players that have to be there to be a successful team. So again, let's talk a little bit about the self-awareness side of it.
Yeah. This is another area that when I do the mental performance with Team Alberta, to me, it's a critical piece of it. We started out both with the Pee Wee Prospects and the Alberta Cup where we do some sessions prior to the camps even beginning, before they try out. And a lot of this stuff I end up talking to the players about. It's unfortunate that in our sport, and it might be with others, but we have penalties, and we have players that are scorers, and we have players that are more just defensive oriented. But coaches at a very early age with players already start to segregate those that should be on a power play and those that should just kill penalties and those that maybe aren't good enough to do either. And so players right away get ingrained in their heads the type of player that they are, just based on what their role from the coach is given to them. So whether they're AAA or Tier 3, I see it even at 9 and 11-year-olds, U11, where teams already have power play units and things like that. And it just blows me away, because you're telling Jeremy Halischuk at 11 years old that he's going to be a plumber the rest of his life in hockey. He's never going to get a chance to score goals, to be on the power play, to be on the, on a top line or anything like that. So a whole part of it, and this I'm going at the coaches here, has to be that you've got to give players an opportunity to try and experiment in all situations and not worry again. Sometimes you win and sometimes you learn. The learning part for a coach there is after Christmas, beginning of the second part of the season, you can probably start to narrow things down as to where kids can end up going. We had this year with Team Alberta, and because Derek's worked so long with me and he knows my philosophy with Team Alberta, they didn't really have power play units and penalty kill units until after our 3 round robin games. And we didn't do very well in them. We won 1 of the 3. So we did okay, but we learned a whole ton. So when we went into the playoffs, when we played our semifinal and final game, is when everything started to come together. They put lines together that worked. They put power play units together. And in our last 5 periods, I believe we scored 17 goals and only allowed 1. So it was a case of not doing so well the first part of the year or the season, the short-term part, but coming together at the end. And what Marty and the staff ended up doing, and again, this is that mentorship piece coming out, is if you allow everybody to play different opportunities at the beginning, they're going to play themselves into situations, so that earning joy ended up coming out. The players who ended up playing in the power play earned it. Now, is it the same players each game that got that chance? No, because some days somebody might not earn it and somebody might earn it more. So there was always that opportunity to move up or down. When we talk about roles, I do a presentation and I talk about, to begin with, I show a bunch of different vehicles, a Ferrari, a Jeep, a Big Mac truck, or whatever. And I talk to the players about, so if you were to put yourself in one of these vehicle shoes, what would you end up being? Like, what type of vehicle would you be and why? So I get them to sort of become self-aware of the type of player they are. And some kids realize they're a Mack truck. They're not a Ferrari. They're not fast and sleek and, could score a lot of goals and whatever else. So that's the first part of it, is for the player themselves to recognize what are the skills that they have in the game. And if they don't like it, then part of it is that sometimes you learn side of it is you got to work more on it. So maybe you're going to go out on outdoor ice and you're going to work on your shot or your skating or whatever it happens to be, so that you can become a Ferrari instead of just being a Mack truck. Some players aren't into that. Some players aren't born with that. That's just their stereotype, right? That's the way that they are. That's their body somatotype, and they're not going to end up making the change. So for them to recognize, to start with, what they have. Next part of it is we're a gardener and we're planting some flowers. And at the end of the day, the garden ends up needing to have sunlight. It needs water. It needs somebody to feed it or to weed it, and somebody to feed it, all of those things. So again, we talk about that part of it in that role side of it and the self-awareness piece. What are you doing within the game and outside the game to tend your garden, your personal garden? So if you're not doing anything in the gym, if you're not shooting pucks in the garage, if you're not working on your stick handling, if you're not doing those things, you're not tending to your garden very well. If you're not following performance enhancement things like eating properly, getting a lot of hydration and rest and recovery, again, you're not feeding your garden very well. So all of those things start to roll into the type of role that you might be playing on the team and how much joy you might be earning with it. So again, that's another self-awareness piece, because a lot of kids, even at the Alberta Cup level, that U15 level, have not been taught how to think that way. Their body is a temple, really it is. And the more that they can control it and the more they understand it, the better a player they're going to end up being. And then obviously you've got to have the nature side of things coming in. How much are they going to grow? When are they going to grow? I've got two of my grandsons play. One of them has grown probably 5 or 6 inches the last year, and his feet are like skis. And his brother, completely the opposite, hasn't grown at all. And so the older one that's growing, he's a Bambi on the ice at times, just because he's grown so much. The little one, skating and skill out the yin yang, because he hasn't grown yet and he's learned to adapt to his body. So all of those sorts of things, Jer, also go to that when you ask a question about the role side of it. Then you get into, with the self-awareness piece, how bad do you want something? If you want it bad enough, you're going to tend your garden. You're going to do the things that need to be done to get the roles that you want to. And another one I think that's really important, especially as kids get older, and we tend to end up having a lot of parents might get involved with this and interfere with coaching and with the players, is that backseat drive home, and whether they're giving the kids heck because they didn't play hard enough or do hard enough, or they're talking on the coach that they're not getting the opportunities and whatever. And I'm going to phone the coach. So in a lot of cases, there's intervention between the parents and the coach. And a lot of times it doesn't turn out well because they aren't built to have, they haven't been taught how to have those interactions in a positive, constructive manner. And so it ends up being a heated debate instead of an objective look at what's going on and how to end up helping out. So end of the day, kids need to end up stepping up and asking the coach. If they don't feel they're getting their just due, they need to make a statement to the coach. They need to go and ask, what can I do to get more ice time, to get the role on the power play, to be involved in the penalty kill, whatever it happens to be. So that self-awareness piece, I think I've shared with you, is both a technical, a tactical, and a mental performance piece. All three of them tie into that self-awareness and the kid knowing and understanding the type of person that he is, where he's going to go. And I did mention earlier on about the redhead syndrome, and it's kind of funny because it's more a stereotype than anything else, but we have a lot of players who don't control their emotions very well. They flip their lid, and then they get mind chatter going through them. And what mind chatter is just negative thoughts, things that are going on, and instead of normalizing it, they end up overreacting to it. So again, that's part of my job with Team Alberta, is when I see that with the players, I'm going to end up helping them out, whether they come to me or I notice it with them. Most kids don't have a sports psychologist that's on staff or that's on standby that they can phone and talk to all the time. So reading books is really critical if they end up wanting to learn and understand more. One book I would say to buy, it's $20 a chapters, Thinking Body, Dancing Minds. It's Eastern philosophy, Western sports, an incredible book. It goes through about 60 different scenarios of things that a player might be thinking at a different time. And it gives adages as far as how to deal with it, how to think it through, how to normalize it, how to do all that stuff. And I think that's a big piece of self-awareness too, is I want to learn, I want to grow, I want to get better. That's that lifelong learning piece.
This is the Hockey Edmonton Show. I'm YouTube Trev, Jeremy Halishchuk beside me as always, and we are joined by Barry Medori, manager of Coach Mentorship. This has been a great chat so far, and we'll just keep you. We got just a few more questions for you there, Barry. But you touched on parents a little bit there, and that's kind of where I'd like to transition for this question. I've seen it firsthand growing up playing hockey in Southern Alberta. Unfortunately, I've seen it. Unfortunately, a lot of people have seen it. I'm sure you've had some stories, and so have I. But I'm just curious, for parents, what are one or two things they can do to make their child's experience just the best, just to make it better?
I read an article a number of years ago, and it was called "I Love to Watch You," and I think that would be the advice that I would give a parent is when you take your child to the rink, and in the old days we were begging parents to stay, not to drop them off. And I think now a lot of coaches are saying drop them off and then leave and pick them up
Yeah.
after the game or after the practice. But if parents have the attitude that their kids playing a sport, they're becoming fit, they're learning to be a team player, they're getting life skills, they're getting sports skills, and they're enjoying it, tell them at the end of their skate, whether it's a game or a practice, I love to watch you today. I love to see the way that you made the passes or the goal that you scored or whatever else. So having that positive influence on the player to me is the most important part. But it starts with them going to the rink, understanding and being focused that that's what they're there for, is they're there to be a cheerleader. And if they're not for their kid, I don't know if the kid's going to be, and I don't know at the end of the day if it's going to end up being a good situation. We have millions of armchair coaches in Canada and throughout the world. It's not just Canada, by the way, that know as much or more than the coaches do. It's almost like watching an Oiler game with friends, and they're telling you who they should trade and who they should bench and what they should do. So it's a lot of subjectivity coming in, not knowing what's being said in the dressing room, on the bench, what the style of play, what the game plan is for that game. Maybe they've told the defenseman to back off. They don't want him pinching and rushing in that. And so the players are playing that way. The parents don't see it or hear it. So they're upset that the kids aren't doing what they think they should be doing. And so that comes back a little bit to the coach sharing at times with the parents their philosophy and what they're doing as well. So it's a two-way street. So that would be another thing I would say, from the parent side of it, is be an active listener and find out what is proper and correct and true. So if it's something that they're not happy with, go and talk to the coach about it and ask them, but do it in a manner that is not going to be that aggressive style. It's more of an assertive one of wanting to ask. So being a good listener would be another part of it. And I think really just enjoying the sport and your kids for what it is. They're only around for so long and then they're going to leave. And I can honestly tell you with us living in Onaway all those years and our kids growing up there, when they were finished playing hockey and finished school, we had a really tight knit group of people that were together for a whole bunch of years, because small community, most of the same kids played every year forever. So we were a tight group of friends. Once the kids stop playing, those friendships are still there, but they're not even that close anymore because we've got nothing to get together for on a Friday or a Saturday night, right? So I think that enjoyment from the parents' side, the social aspect for them, is another critical piece. Is recognize it's a place and time. If your kid's going to end up making it, they're going to do most of it on their own. Obviously, today there's a cost involved, both money and time from a parent's side. So they are putting that into it, but they need to understand that part of it. And the other one, don't put the pressure on the player. Like, the player has to be the one that wants to improve, that wants to get to the next level, that wants to make it. You can provide them with everything to help them to get there, but I would say just provide them with that and leave out the fact of you trying to be the coach and chief cook and bottle washer of everything as they end up going through it.
Perfect. Yeah, no, that's definitely some good thought there. Again, like I said, a lot of very very good tidbits there. Especially, yeah, that at the end of the day, the player is the one who's going to be the one that navigates that journey to really get to that next level. I think from my perspective, one of the last ones that I want to hit on that you talked about so far in the last half of our conversation has been those conversations with your coach and such. And can you explain the importance of really needing to understand your coach?
Oh, for sure. And to start with, I would talk to the coaches and say that none of us are a mountain. None of us know everything. We're always learning. So you're not always right. So being vulnerable is critical. If you can show the player that you're willing to admit that you weren't right, or you're willing to listen to what they have to say and giving it a go, it's going to lead to the player trusting who you are as a person. So to me, that's the first thing, is a self-awareness from the coach, exemplifying it, giving it to the kids so that they can recognize it and not play in fear. It's interesting, after our game on Sunday, and this leads to what you're asking, Jer. We had lost, and so I went around the room and we did the what did you learn and what can we do better and all of that. And then I said, have you guys ever had a coach? And these are U15 kids. I said, have you ever had a coach that is like our staff? Like, we don't yell at the kids. We allow mistakes to happen. Like, don't be afraid to fail. That's fine. You're not going to get benched or yelled at or screamed. We don't throw sticks. We don't swear. We don't do any of those things. And to a player, not one of them did. They've all experienced a coach that's gone the other way. So that whole thing of kids, like, and I when I talk short term, I try to get the mentors to talk to their coaches about this. How you start the event has to be how you end it. You can't be rah, sis, boom, bah when you're winning. And as soon as you start to lose, your hands go like this and you don't talk anymore and you show frustration and you're upset. You're not opening and inviting yourself to the players. And they're going to read off of you 100%. So from the players' side, they're going to read like my daughter bugs me. My new skates are half a dozen years old, but my own old ones are 42 years old. And I used to wear them, and I'm trying to get the new ones on. I go out onto the ice the other day for practice, and all the players looked and said, hey, coach, new skates. They see way more than a coach ever thinks that they see. They know every mannerism and everything. So end of the day, that's how they get to know their coach. So the better that you are to be open and vulnerable for them, the easier it is for them to buy into what you're selling. The other side of it is just doing team building stuff with them, hanging out, doing one-on-one meetings, whether it's planned or it's organic. You're talking to kids on the ice before a practice, walking into the rink, you get kids and talk to them. That was my style as a teacher and administrator. You talk to as many kids as you can coming in, because at the end of the day, you find out through body language, voice intonation, and all of those things, what type of attitude and how they're feeling coming into your class or onto the ice that day. And the players will get the same thing from you. If you're not vibrant and ready to go for a practice or a game, they'll sense it. And again, it just turns them a little bit the other way too. So I probably spent more time talking from the coach side here, you guys, but to me, it starts with a coach and then it vibrates onto the player. And from a player's side, when you have a coach that's negative Nelly and yelling and screaming, what normally happens is they shut it out. But again, at some point, especially the age that the kids are at, might be a cause of concern, and for them to go and talk to the coach and say, hey, I don't appreciate you swearing so much or yelling at me or whatever else, pointing fingers in the dressing room, all of those sorts of things. So some of it comes back to the player having to be assertive and stand up for themselves, or younger ones would obviously be the parent with a player.
Awesome, Barry. Well, thank you so much. This was really awesome. Definitely worth having you back if you'd ever be able to. This was great, man. Just a great conversation. Thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I hope the rest of your season goes well, and you have a nice, relaxing 5 months off preparing for the next season going forward. So thank you so much, Barry. Really, really appreciate this.
Well, Trev, thanks very much for the invite, Jer. Hopefully your season goes well with Hockey Edmonton too. Thanks again.
Yeah, thanks. We'll talk soon, Barry.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, there we go. That was Barry Medori, manager of Coach Mentorship. That was a great interview. That was awesome, man. You know what? Barry seems like the kind of guy I'd really like to have a beer with. I'm not going to lie. I feel like he's got a lot of really good stories.
Oh, definitely stories, but even how he takes those stories and shares those wisdoms on you is just that's what people take away is you can listen to him talk and you can sit there and you will gain a lot of knowledge just listening to his stories, his experience. And again, that idea because he's a lifelong learner and he sees what the game is for what it is, and that is opportunities to learn, develop, and again grow as a person. And like I said, definitely an asset for the Team Alberta or Hockey Alberta, the coach program, the Team Alberta
Absolutely.
program, and again that all filters down into the game itself, into our system, into our coaches, be it Hockey Edmonton, be it St. Albert, Sherwood Park, Spruce Grove in this case, Red Deer, Calgary, wherever. Um, that knowledge and expertise gets filtered in, and again we're seeing that bigger and bigger net, no different than when we had Sage and Nathan, who would have been you know mentored by Barry. Again, like I said, a lot of great coaches have had their mentorship from him and his wisdom bestowed on them.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say. Wise, he's a very wise individual. Is Barry there? Like everything he was saying, I was just like, wow. Like he's just got a great answer for, and you can tell like the resume speaks for itself. But that's not just coming off the top of the dome. That's just experience. That's experience, and he's got a lot of it. So great chat we just had with Barry Medori, one last time manager of Coach Mentorship. Yeah, we're just diving into the final thoughts of today's show. If you've made it this far, thank you for tuning in. Another great conversation right here on the Hockey Edmonton Show. I'm YouTube Trev. That's Jeremy Hallischuk. And yeah, this has been a very good show so far. So just final thoughts here. Kind of what we got from that is at the end of the day, the player themselves, it comes from within. Like at the end of the day, they want to have to, see some improvements as far as player development goes.
Yeah, exactly. Like you said, you're the gardener, right? You're the one who grows the garden.
Great analogy.
Exactly, and you're the one who manages that garden. So it is definitely internal. And like you said, the parents, yes, you can provide the opportunities, but again, if the players don't want that, the effort that you're utilizing to push them is a wasted effort at the end of the day. And again, like I said, it's the ownership is on the player, especially as you get higher and higher levels, and you really want to go with that elite side of it. That onus becomes more and more on the players, and you see that they don't have to be motivated to go to the gym. They don't have to have mom and dad yelling at them to go to do their practice or workout. Right? It's internal.
Yeah. And yeah, I love the garden there. That was good. Good analogy. I was gonna say when we returned, my garden's got a few weeds in it. They're very, but yeah, it's not just like that's what we kind of talked about at the beginning of the show, and we're gonna reflect on it now. But he's a great person on the ice, which is physical, but you're just as good of a person off the ice, which comes from, just what's within. It's emotional, Could you not,
Yeah.
would you not agree?
Yeah, exactly. You want to have that great emotional intelligence, which includes self-awareness, control when things are not going well. And again, like I said, you talk about why you're a great teammate is, yes, you can hold your teammates accountable in a respectful manner, and such. So again, that's part of it. It's not going out there and throwing them under the bus and blaming, assigning blame everywhere. It's again, how do we bring our teammates up as a whole? And again, these are relative to the hockey side of it. But guess what? Those, as you've heard from us, extend into real life at the end of the day. Just like in hockey, there are teaching moments throughout your life, be it school, be it at work, and again on the ice. It's what you learn from these moments is what shapes you as a player and a person. And again, like I said, we talk about how hockey builds great people. Being a great teammate again is the biggest part of that, and again that translates into your everyday life after the game is done for you. So again, like I said, these are some great teaching moments. Again, to take his Barry's phrases there, these are some great teaching moments the game provides. And hopefully today, yeah, people have heard some great wisdom bestowed on them. Because again, like I said, we could easily go multiple hours for this, and yeah, we're definitely going to have him back in the new year to talk from the coaching side as well. So
Yeah, no, I was definitely going to ask that. Yeah, there was a few more questions that I was like, I kind of want to touch on this, kind of want to touch on that. But as you said, like he's got like just great answers. Sign me up for a guest like Barry there with with answers like that. Like I could be so educated on something and I'd never be able to have answers that long, like good long thought out answers like that. So that was awesome. Jeremy, any final words on today's show?
no, that's everything. Thanks to Barry again, just absolutely, the knowledge that he possesses, and again that gets shared into our system and into our game again is just second to none, and definitely warranted all the recognition that he gets, not only award wise, but again you talk to anybody who's coached high level, gone through the programs, they always speak highly of Barry, and again, this is why.
Yeah, you said it. He is possessed with knowledge. Right on. Awesome. Well, that pretty well does it for today's show this fine Saturday morning. Thank you for tuning in. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. As always, drop a comment down below, leave a like, and thanks for tuning in. We really appreciate it. The support does go a long way, guys. We'll be tuning in. This was episode 13. We've got episode 14 coming next week, and that should be a good one as well. But to Barry, to Jeremy, thank you guys so much. Stay warm out there. It's a cold one today, and Saturday night in hockey. It's Hockey Night in Canada, baby. Watch some hockey today. You should have a great day off, and we'll see you in the next episode. Take her easy, guys.